So, hello everybody, and welcome to the virtual chapter for February 12th, 2019. Hello, 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 hello. Hi, Karen Hand.
And good evening, Michael Watson. It's so good to be here.
It is lovely to see you tonight and in beautiful downtown Chicago. Just a couple things before we get started. We've got a special guest tonight. We're going to be talking with Anthony Jacquin. I will introduce him shortly. I'm not Anthony. I'm sorry. We're going to be talking to Freddy. That was an interesting thing. And so I'm really looking forward to that. But let me take care of some announcements first. So we are recording. Be aware that you are being recorded. So if you have any hope of running for any government office at any time in the future, you are being recorded. So please behave when you are on camera.
Let me point out to you also that even if you think you've turned your camera off, or if you have your camera, you can't see what is going on the screen, you might be seen. So don't do something in front of your computer during this that you don't want people who are watching in gallery view to also enjoy.
Yes, like that last time. Exactly right. And by the way,
Michael,
yes?
I don't know if you can do anything about it, but you're getting a strange kind of hum or feedback.
Are other people getting that from me, or is that just Don?
No, I'm not hearing it.
Yeah, sorry, Don. It seems to be on your end.
Okay, I'll get off and come back on.
All right, and we will be here. So to let you all know that if you are members of IACTR IMDHA, you can get CEUs for being with us tonight. You have spent an hour and a half for your time, and by God, you should get credit for it. So go out to IACTR IMDHA's website, whichever one you are a member of, or both if that's the case. And when you log in with your member ID, the page pops up where you can claim your continuing education units. So just indicate that you were attended the virtual chapter and you want an hour and a half worth of credit for that, and that'll take care of it. I think that you probably can also get CEUs, I like to say, from other friendly hypnosis organizations for having been here with us as well. So you might check it out if you belong to some other group. We are endorsed by the IHF and the ICBCH, so I know both of those groups will give you credit if you're a member of those. And just a little logistics, if you will, down at the bottom of the screen, probably for you underneath my chin, you may see the word chat. And if you click there, you can open up a little chat box on your screen that might come in handy for you during the course of the evening and the time that we are here. And logistic-wise, that's just about all I think I need to let you know. But gosh, Karen, there's been so much going on. We have just finished the Galaxy of the Stars.
Yes.
And before last, a magnificent online Zoom event with 3 great speakers and me. And it was a lovely time. Yeah, and we presented on smoking and on weight loss and on pain management and on stress and anxiety. If you weren't able to attend, the event was also recorded, and the recordings will be available through IAC and through IMDHA within about 2 or 3 weeks from now. So you can contact them for that. I don't have any specific information or know the cost of it or anything, but it was great. And now that that's behind us, the Galaxy of the Stars, we are getting ready for Daytona Beach, our annual pilgrimage. There are so many times when you are doing hypnosis and somebody might say to you, what I'd like you to do is to get comfortable, take a deep breath, and just find yourself on a beautiful beach. And you can look up the beach and you can look down the beach, and the sand stretches off in both directions, and the waves break upon the shore, and you can feel the surf in your face. And we don't actually have to say that to anybody in Daytona. It's rather interesting because they already have that experience. We are on the beach in a beautiful hotel, which for those of you who've been to the convention regularly know what the hotel is like. It has in fact also just been completely remodeled at the cost of millions and millions of dollars. So we're really looking forward to something wonderful. I talked to the Ottos today, and they were there checking out the new amenities and our new digs. So the conference is May 17th through the 19th, 2019, and in anticipation of the conference, we have our annual presenters series. By the way, Karen, you're presenting a workshop at the conference, are you not?
I am Friday, a full day workshop on the reminding system for positive change. It's a very flexible system, a way to use a whole basket of tools depending on what your client presents. So it's a good way to work with what presents. Be very client-centered.
A whole basket of tools.
A whole basket of tools.
That will be wonderful. So, and by the way, I'm going to be presenting a post-conference workshop one day on Monday, which is all about Zoom and using Zoom to be able to work with clients online. And we'll get into a whole lot of detail about that. So I hope that you can come. But not only Karen and I, of course, there are a host of presenters. Don Pellis, who is on the call here tonight, is going to be presenting core transformation, and we'll be talking to him about that later on. That during the weeks prior to the conference, starting on the 17th of February, Sunday evenings, we do 2 presenters each evening of the folks that are doing pre and post-conference programs. So for several Sundays in a row, in fact, I think there are about 8 of them, we'll have 2 presentations each evening. So join us at the same logon, the virtual chapters logon. Separate from our regular chapter meeting, we will have a regular chapter meeting on the second Tuesday of March and of April. But the presenter series, always an annual biggie, kicking off on the 17th. And our first night, the guests will be George Bien and Roy Hunter on the same bill. Can you imagine that? Your head will probably explode with sheer excitement. So we do hope that you will join us for that. I can't think of anything else. Any other announcements you've got, Karen?
Yes, I would like to say that we will be, Michael and I, and several of you, I believe, will be in Vegas, February 25th, 26th, and 27th for the Winter HPTI Conference. So we'll be delighted to see some of you there. Please, if we haven't met in person, come up and let's shake hands and introduce ourselves. And then Michael and I start our training, our in-person and online training in March. Coming up then, it's full speed ahead to Daytona, and I can hardly wait.
Great. All right. Well, then I guess we have exhausted our announcements. There's nothing left to do other than what we came here for, which I would like to introduce our guest for the evening. And I will tell you that in 1999, Freddy Jacquin founded the UK Hypnotherapy Training College, which is now the Jacquin Hypnosis Academy. He is the inventor of the Aero technique, one of the things that we will talk about tonight. He's recently written a lovely book called Hypnotherapy, and in that book, his goal is to enable anyone to learn to hypnotize and to use their skills to help themselves and to help others. What's wonderful about this book, if you haven't seen it, is that it is simple, it is straightforward, it is immediately usable, and it is a delight to read.
Yes, so, all of those things.
Yeah. So I had the pleasure of meeting Freddy in Brazil this past year, and I've come to the conclusion that he is not only a skilled practitioner and trainer, but he is clearly UK's most charming hypnotherapist as well. So without any further ado, I will introduce you to Freddy Jacquin. And Freddy, thank you for being here with us tonight.
Wow. Oh, thanks for inviting me. It's great to see you all, and great to be here to speak to you all. So, I hope by the end of our time together, you'll have an experience, those who want it, of the Aero technique itself. You'll see when we do it, it's a very simple technique. And my goal, really, is that everyone should be able to use it. I want everyone, mums, dads, teachers, doctors, nurses, anyone that cares for anyone else. And it is a very simple tool. And when I present it, I might say, it's rapid. It takes 5 or 10 minutes. But the value in it is not in the speed you do it at. It's the outcome. It just happens to be a very effective tool that can be done quickly and easily. And as I say, before the evening's out, any of you that have got any kind of pain, whether it's physical, emotional, whether you call that pain anxiety or stress, we're going to run this technique with you. And I'd like to think you have the experience. And because most of you, if not all of you, are hypnotherapists and know how to use hypnosis, you'll probably think, well, I can do that. And to be honest with you, you probably can. And I'd like to think that, you know, that you'll go and use this, because we got the product out and it's been cloned by someone in China or something. It's out there for like $2 or something. Mm-hmm. And someone said to me, oh, you know, you're really upset. And I said, the other side of it is that there are 3 billion people in China. Mm-hmm. And if someone's using my technique out there and helping people, you know, I've had a little hand in it somewhere. So, you know, so I'm trying to look on the bright side of it. Mm-hmm. And as I said, you know, I'd like to think that some of you will take this technique, learn it even this evening while we're talking about it and teaching you it, and take it and help someone.
And it's a wonderful thing to do for the world, Freddie, because after all, teachers, parents, coaches, best friends are all using hypnosis all the time, are they not?
Well,
they're just very trained. They're just not
well, my attitude is that, you know, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've personally seen over 30,000 clients. And for years, like most of us as hypnotherapists, I would think that people would come and see me with a problem. I'd hypnotize them, and then, you know, I'd make them do something or make them stop doing something. And that's pretty much what they thought as well. I now understand it to be the other way around. They're already in trance as far as I'm concerned, like you were just saying. You know, we're all using hypnosis, whether we call it hypnosis or not. And so sometimes I have done it. I've just said, yeah, you've been in a trance for 10 years, albeit a negative trance. And I hypnotize someone and I say, at some point, I'm going to count to 3. You'll come out of that negative trance and you'll stay in the trance, the positive trance, which we're going to leave you in. And sometimes change can be that simple. If you see it as I see it, that every behavior, everything that we think is out of our control is a trance that someone or we've self-hypnotized and put ourselves in. And so it's as easy sometimes as just saying, I'm coming out of that trance. I'm not going to be in it anymore. You know, back in the room. So you're right, absolutely right. You know, teachers are using hypnosis, doctors are using hypnosis. The moment they walk in there with a white coat on and a stethoscope, you know, they're already in a position and the person's fascinated and they're in that thing, and they can be easily suggestible. So you're absolutely right, yeah.
So and thank you for offering a tool that they might read and actually get to use. Thank you. Arming them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's the word hypnosis with the doctors in the UK anyway. You know, this tool, but then for me, it concerns me that just as a duty of care, if a doctor, I don't know what it's like in the States, but over here, a GP might have 5 or 10 minutes with their patient. Mm-hmm. It's a very short period of time. But if you're giving your patient the maximum amount of painkillers you can give them, and it's not touching the pain anymore, why would you not say, look, let's run this technique. It's going to take us 5 minutes, and I'm just going to talk to you. But they're reluctant to do it. And I know we've got Adam Easton, I know you know Michael, who's you know, into this evidence-based, which I suppose if we're going to push this out into the world where everyone accepts it, there has to be some evidence behind it. But like I said the other day to someone, it's like dissecting an acorn and trying to find the tree. You know, you're not going to find it in there because this goes beyond science as far as I can see.
And quite frankly, the evidence seems to be the fact that people are no longer in pain.
Right.
You know, so
right.
Just as a way of kind of getting into this and particularly the uniqueness of your approach, when we were putting this together, you know, I needed a title, and for lack of anything else, and just kind of anticipating and guessing what Freddie might do or talk about, I just was going to call it creativity in induction and intervention, something like that. And Freddie said the title that he had in mind was something like The Power of Love and Other Strong Emotions in Hypnotic Encounters. And when I heard that, I thought, I've got to ask you, tell us about that.
Well, for me, I mean, I use emotional levers all the time. But for me, it's very simple. If I can create an emotion within you, then I can give you a suggestion that's likely to stick or bite. And if you look at this in our everyday life, let's say, you know, I'm going to say a woman, it can be either way. But let's say a woman's having a really good day. She's had a really good day. Her husband, her partner comes in. He's in a bad mood, and he makes her feel bad. And then he tells her that she's rubbish or she's crap. You know, he's altered her state, and then he's given her a direct suggestion. If that happens enough time, then that person's going to start to believe they actually are like that. You know, and people do it with their kids. You know, if you physically restrain your kid, or you clip your, like in the old days, we'd clip them around the ear, and then you say you're an idiot. That's no different. You've suddenly changed the kid's emotional state, and you've given them a suggestion. So for me, it's very simple. I run a thing I call arm motion, and it's a very simple technique. You probably see me do it in Las Vegas or in Brazil. And if someone says to me, "Can you hypnotize me?" It's very simple for me. I just say, "Are you ready to be hypnotized?" And they go, "Yes." And I just say, "Can I borrow your arm?" And I pick their arm up to here. And with what we call an ambiguous touch, if you've read Erickson, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's quite literally, it's this kind of grip, where you grip with these two, your middle finger and your thumb, and you put this finger on the back of the hand. And then I get them to focus on me. And while I'm doing that, at some point, I'll let go of my finger and thumb. I'll have my finger on the back of their hand. So to all intent and purpose, I'm still holding their hand, but I'm no longer holding it up. And once I know that that's gone cataleptic, I can move my hand away. This takes 30 seconds. They're now focused on what I'm saying, and I'm asking them just to think about the people they love. Think about the person they love most. See that face, feel that love. And as they're feeling, then I point out their hands just hanging all by itself. And I suggest that they can't move it, and they can't. And that happens eyes open. It's not sleep, relax, none of that stuff. It's just there. And then you can link that to anything else you want to do. So for me, you know, I don't know, most of you might know magnetic fingers. It's probably one of the first things we learn. And I've been doing it for maybe 25 years. My son Anthony, you know, he demonstrates it in his book, Reality is Plastic. And most people now, if they're doing street hypnosis, it's the first go-to thing. Look at the gap between your fingers. I'm assuming, just nod if you use that. Yeah. Do you do finger lock though? Do you test that work? No.
Not often.
Right. I'm going to do this now with you.
Yeah, please.
Let's all do it. Just follow my instructions, okay? And I'm just going to introduce one extra aspect, and you'll see what I mean by this. So I want you to all do this. Place your hands out in front of you. Clasp your hands together. Pull your hands up where you can see them, and squeeze your palms together. At the same time squeezing your palms together, pull your index fingers an inch apart. Now look at the gap between those fingers. I want you to imagine they're magnets. As you look at the gap, you listen to my voice. You're going to feel that force put them together. In a moment, they will touch, and when they touch, your eyes will close. Get ready. As you look at that gap and listen to my voice, when they touch, close your eyes. That's right, close your eyes now. Now I want you to see the face of the person you love most on this planet, whether it's your partner, your mother, your sister, your brother, your child. See that face, feel that love right now. And as you feel that love, as you see that face, every negative, limiting belief that you or anyone else ever placed on you disappears. And as you feel that love, as you see that face, those hands are locking tighter and tighter together. They are super glued, bolted together, they are stuck. You can try and pull them apart and find a stick even tighter. Now imagine there's nothing you can do about that. The harder you try and get them unstuck, the tighter they're going to stick. Pull even harder, find a stick even tighter. You can open your eyes and look at those hands and try and get them apart. Find a stick even tighter now. That's right, now close your eyes. See that face, feel that love. And as you feel that love, every limitation disappears. Every negative limiting belief. I'm going to count to 3. On 3, your hands will come apart, your eyes will open, you'll feel incredible, and you'll be ready for the learnings you're going to have this evening. 1, feeling absolutely wonderful. 2, to achieve the things you want to achieve, do it brilliantly. 3, eyes opening, hands coming unstuck, feeling absolutely incredible now. Right, so, you know, I don't know if you've had an eye-open experience of hypnosis, but if you hadn't before, you've had one now. You know, but a lot of hypnotherapists, they're afraid to test their work. They think, what if I say, try and pull them apart, and they pull them apart? But the moment I introduce that, there's no difference to your normal, look at your fingers, imagine they're magnets. That proves to me you can concentrate and you can imagine. But once you introduce emotion into it, and it's very simple, just by asking you to think about the person you love most. The moment you're thinking about that person, I can give you a suggestion. My first suggestion is going to be every limiting belief, every negative thought disappears, and now your hands are stuck tighter and tighter. And then there's the double bind. When you realize there's nothing you can do about it, you can try and pull them apart, find you cannot. Harder you try and pull them apart, the tighter they're going to stick. But that can be done, like you've had that experience there, in moments. And in the therapy room, I will use it very early on, normally to make a point. But when people have been to talking therapies for a long time, and they come into hypnotherapy and they just think it's going to be another talking therapy, when you give them an experience of hypnotic phenomena, which this is, they suddenly realize that something's going to happen. It's a big experience, and sometimes it's the biggest experience, this thing they're going to talk about. So, for me, it's very simple. Anyone asks me to hypnotize them, the first thing I'm going to do is ask them who they care about most. And then I'm going to do that. But if it's in a therapy situation where someone's doing something that's detrimental, where they're taking drugs, whether they're smoking too much, drinking too much, eating too much, but anything that's detrimental to their well-being and their health. If I know, and I always ask that question, are you married? Have you got a partner? Have you got kids? I'm going to use one of those people as a lever to get them off that thing. And once I get them thinking about that person, I'm going to suggest, that they understand their worth and their value to that person. And so we are not going to look after ourselves unless we value ourselves. So my ultimate goal in a therapy room, above everything else, is to get my client to understand their worth and their value to the people they love, to people that love them. And by doing that, then I can get them into hypnosis very easily, because when they're when I alter their emotional state, I can then give them a suggestion. So for me, it's very simple, and that's why the title of this was "The Power of Love in Personal Change." We're all going to, if you can do that. And I honestly, if I'm in this position, I've got my client in this position, it could be in the first 5 minutes of the therapy, with first meeting with me, and I get them thinking about their child. If they're there because they're doing themselves in with their smoking or their drinking or their alcohol or whatever it might be, and their mouths start to go and their lips starts to quiver, and I suggest that person's life depends upon them and they'll feel that love, they're not going out there smoking. They're not going out there still taking that drug. Once they understand that, because the more I can get them emotional, the more I'm going to be very direct with my suggestions. And I think that's a lot of the fear of abreactions. A lot of people say, what about an abreaction? What do you do? And a lot of people panic in those situations. For me, that's the moment I'm going to be very, very direct, because I know they're in a heightened emotional state. And you can do this in everyday life. My son, I've got 4 sons you might not know, but they range from 47 to 16. And my one at 16, one of 18, Anthony, a lot of you have met, is 44, and my oldest boy is 47. But my 18-year-old, when he was about 7 or 8 years old, we used to live on a hill, and he used to go to school down this hill. And every morning he would run down this road. And every day I would say, don't, stop, be careful because you'll fall over. Didn't make any difference. He just kept running. And one day there was a guy who was washing his car. So there was soap water all over the pavement. So my son went down the hill, like as usual, careful, you'll fall, don't fall over. He went over, grazed his legs. He's crying. He's about 30 yards away from me. So I ran to him, and the guy who's washing his car, he's very sympathetic. And he must have thought I was really cruel. But I said to my boy, you've hurt your leg, and from today, you'll be careful when you run down this hill. I used that emotional state. It's quite tough. But I used that emotional situation to give him a very direct suggestion. And he was careful after that day. So once you recognize it, and you can see it, then you can see it in your partner. If your partner's, laughs, give them a positive suggestion. Tell them how beautiful they are. Tell them how brilliant they are. The same with our children. If you see an emotional spike, you don't have to be hypnotized to give that suggestion. You can achieve anything you want. You can overcome that problem. So for me, as I said, over the years, it's become more and more simple. And that's what I'm saying about the arrow technique. I want everyone to use it. But the problem, and I was talking about the UK Hypnotherapy Convention, is that if everyone can use it, it sort of takes away the kudos of being a hypnotherapist, if everyone can do it. But for me, as I said, it becomes more and more a natural thing to do. And people ask about hypnosis. I used to say it was a natural phenomena. I actually believe now that it's a natural ability that we all have. If we can tap into it, we can change the way we think, change the way we feel, change the way we live.
Yeah.
So, as I say, it's become more and more simple as I go on. And once you start to take out what I consider to be the fluff that's around it, and a lot of courses do it to make it more complex, because if it's complex and I can do it and you can't do it, somehow that makes me smarter than you or better than you. If we can all do it, if we can all learn it, getting back to how simple the arrow is, my 16-year-old son, he's 16 now, but when he was 9, he was at school, and one of his classmates, a young girl in his class, he was only, say, same age as him, same class, a friend of his, she'd broken her arm and she'd had it put in a cast. And he came home that evening, and he's sitting having his dinner. He's 9 years old, eating his sausage and mash. And he was telling me, he said, my friend at school had broken her arm. She's in plaster, and it was hurting her. He said, and they wouldn't give her any more pills because she's young and she couldn't take any more aspirin. He said, so I did that. And while he's eating his dinner, he said, I did that thing that you did, Dad, and took the pain away. He's 9 years old. He didn't know that it was complex. It's not complex. But if my son of 9 can do it, then, we can all do it. Obviously, as adults, we're going to ask, is that pain any use to you? We're not just going to go around, eliminating pain that we don't know whether it's of any protection or not. So, that's what I'm saying about the power of emotion. We can use it in our everyday life. We can recognize when anyone is in an emotional state. And, you can take this into all walks of life, into sales. If you watch me, and Bob watched me last night, if I can make you laugh, I'm going to be ready with a suggestion. And I purposely do that when I'm doing, big live groups with people. If I can make them laugh, and it might just seem like it's something I do just off the cuff, but I'm ready. Now, if I'm working with a group of smokers and I can make them laugh or get them thinking about that first cigarette they had and they smile, then I'm going to say the need for a cigarette is going to be gone from your life forever. It's going to slip it in while they're laughing, while they're not really listening to me. It's going to go straight in as a suggestion, not even going to hear it. When I'm working with weight loss people, I have maybe 3 or 4 direct suggestions that I'm going to use when I create an emotion. The weight's going to drop off you. The need to snack and comfort eat will be gone. They're not hearing it because they're laughing or they're thinking about how good they're going to look. So for me, this is very, very simple. And it's such a powerful tool. It's such a fantastic thing to be able to do. And I'm sure that's why you're all here. We love it. And you can see I'm passionate about it. I can talk about it forever. And I was saying to Michael earlier, getting me to talk about it's not a problem. Get me to shut up. It's a different thing altogether.
How about if we could ask you, I know we're headed towards the arrow pattern, and we like a little backstory as well, and I if you don't mind us sort of looking behind the curtain for a minute, can you let us know sort of what led up to that, or how is it that you developed this particular technique?
Well, I mean, the only person I've really studied, so I'm not a big reader. My son Anthony devours books. He's done that since he was a child, and he's a font of knowledge, and he is fantastic. He reads and reads and reads. I'm not a big reader. I tend to fall asleep if I start reading. But the one person that I have read is Erickson. And one of the things, you know, when I first started out, this back in the 90s, really that book written by Bandler and Grinder, Language Patterns of Erickson, #1 or whatever it was, it's on my shelf here somewhere.
Hypnotic language pattern.
Patterns
Hypnotic
one.
patterns.
Patterns one, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was that. I had that book, and so I'd read some of the stories in there. I read Jay Haley's Uncommon Therapy, which was a great book as well. But one of the things that Erickson said, you know, if we ask someone in the street what hypnosis is, they'll probably say it's sleep or it's relaxation. That's what most people would say hypnosis is. So if you've got some, and that's great if you're working with people in general, but if you're working with someone in pain and you ask them to relax and they're in terrible pain, that's going to be the most difficult thing to do. And Erickson understood that. So he would get them to focus on the pain itself. You know, when we hypnotize people, we might say, you know, if you're people on stage say, look at that light or look at a spot on the ground, you know, they focus their attention on something. So Erickson would focus the person's attention on the pain itself. He would say, go to the very center of that pain and focus on it just for a moment. He understood that saying relax is not going to work with that person. So he used the pain itself as the focus of attention. So that was in the back of my mind. I'd read about him and I'd read about him doing this. And when I was younger, I used to have kidney stones. And I don't know if any of you men have experienced it or even the women have experienced it, but apparently it's the worst pain that a man can experience. The only thing worse than that is childbirth. And luckily, we can't experience it. So, you know, my way of getting away from the pain before I had any medication, if I was on my way to the hospital or I was, you know, trying to get over it before I realized I had to go to the hospital, I would go to a memory, a very clear memory. When back in the 90s, I traveled down through France with a girlfriend and we went down to a place called Aubusson and we stopped on the way to have a picnic. And so that was the memory I'd go to. And I'd try and remember the color of her shorts, the number plate on her car, the kind of cheese we ate, the beer that we had, what was the name of the beer. And the more I tried to get into the detail of the memory, the further away I got from the pain. It got to the point where I could get so into that memory that I could look back to where I was now. And at that point, I didn't feel any pain. So that was my go-to self. Before I did any hypnosis, before I even started hypnosis, that was my way of escaping from the pain. So that disassociation, if you like. So I had this idea that I could put these two things together in some way. And it was back in maybe 99 or something like that. I ran a group for smoking and weight loss I used to go to Wales and I'd go to Llanelli, Swansea, Cardiff, and maybe see 600 or 700 people over those 3 nights. And I used to say, I'll be back in 6 weeks. If anyone wants to see me for something other than smoking, because you're finished, you're done, let me know. And a lady put her hand up and she said, can you do anything for pain? Now, at this point in time, I hadn't run this idea, this technique, but I had an idea I could do it. So I said, who's it for? She said, it's for me. I said, well, don't wait 6 weeks. If you wait until everyone's gone, I'll help you. So there's another lady there in her 30s. She was on crutches. She said, can I stay? I said, of course. She said, I've got spondylosis, crumbling of the spine. So I said, well, stay. So anyway, I saw everyone out. These 2 ladies were there. The lady asked me in the first place. She'd had a pain in her hip for 9 years. And the other girl had been on crutches for 12 years for the pain. A girl on the crutches, she had a son there. He was 4 years old, and her auntie. And the woman with the pain in her hip, she had a friend there. So there's probably maybe 6 or 7 people in the room. And I ran this technique, which we're now known as the arrow, not knowing that it would work, but I ran it as if I'd done it 1,000 times without any sort of doubt. And speaking about doubt, and I train people, you train people. And this again is an Erickson quote, and I wish it was mine because it's brilliant. He was working with someone in pain. I think they had cancer of the jaw. And they were dying, but they were in agony. So they called Erickson in to help. And he did whatever he did, you know, his magic. and the guy's pain went. And someone asked Erickson afterwards, they said, did you know you could do that? And he said this. Now, I say this to all my students because I think it's the most wonderful thing we can learn as hypnotherapists. He said this. He said, I had my doubts, but what I had no doubt about was I could keep my doubts to myself. And that is as hard to learn as some of the techniques. But we all need to do it because we are going to get, so we think, is this person bright enough? Are they going to get what I'm talking about? Are they a good hypnotic subject? You know, those doubts that go through our head. But what you must have no doubt about is you can keep your doubts to yourself. And when I started doing the, running my training college back in 99, I had a young guy working for me. Now, I'd read about a handshake induction, but I'd never done one. But I'd advertised it as, we're going to teach a handshake induction on this course, and I'd never done one. So it came to the day when we had to teach this induction, and the guy I had working for me, he started shuffling papers because he just thought, he knew I hadn't done it. And so anyway, I said, I want to volunteer. And this guy, I can remember his name. It's probably still around, Roger New, but he was a 6'8", hands like shovels. You know, he stood up. So I just said, nice, to, you know, introduce myself, boom, 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 in, gone. So anyway, I brought him out. I went back over to this guy, Adrian, the guy who's working with me, and he said, outside of his mouth, he went, "You went for it then?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "But you didn't know you could do it, did you?" I said, "No." I said, "I had my doubts, but I had no doubt about it, so I keep my doubts to myself." And that's so important when we do our work. You know, if you just act as if it's going to happen. Is it going to happen all the time? Maybe not. But you're going to get better results if you act as if it's going to happen.
And trust yourself that it will. And trust.
Well, and to be honest, it generally, well, I would say it always does. You know, so I ran this technique with these two girls, and quite literally, you know, the girl with the crutches, they were both sitting in a chair like this by now. It was quite literally the Jacquin Power Lift Induction, which, again, I'll show you how to do that tonight. I use it in every first session. And they're in trance. The girl, her hands came down. She opened her eyes. She looked at me and I said, "Where's the pain gone now?" And she went, "I haven't got any pain." So the other girl opened her eyes and she started crying. So I said, "Are you all right?" She said, "Yeah." So I haven't got any pain for the first time in 9 years. Now she's crying tears of joy. So the girl with the crutches stands up. She said, "Do you think I can walk without my crutches?" I said, "I'm not a medical person." She said, "Well, hold them." So she gave me these crutches and she starts to walk slowly over towards me. I said, "You in pain?" She said, "No, I'm not in pain. I haven't walked without my crutches for 12 years. So she said, "I've got an MRI scan coming up. Do you think I ought to have it?" I said, "Absolutely. But it'd be nice to walk in without any pain." She said, "I will." And I swear, she put her crutches under her arm. She took her little boy's hand for the first time ever, because she'd been on crutches all the time he'd been around, and walked out his conference room without the crutch, with a crutch under her arm. And I know it's a bit maybe blasphemous, but this guy, Mark Davies, who was working for me, he went, "It's Jesus. It's Jesus." So it looked like, pick up your bed and walk. That's what it looked like. And that was the first time I ran it. But we've run it so many times, and we've got people all over the world running this technique, having incredible results. And when we first started, we just aimed it at chronic pain. Useless, unnecessary pain. And then it became apparent that we could use it for emotional pain. There's no difference. But because people are buying this product around the world, they don't have the same limitations. Like, you know, it's like the kid in the class who saw the equation on the board, the impossible equation, and didn't know he'd been asleep while the teacher was talking and telling him it was an impossible equation. He thought it was his homework and went home and worked it out. You know, it's a bit like that with the arrow technique. People have put psoriasis in the target. They've put smoking in the target. They've done everything with it, and they're getting results with it. So that was how it came about. This idea of Erickson's having this focus of attention. And when I explain the arrow to you in a moment, you'll see I use a target, and we use the bullseye or the center of the target as where the pain is. And we use disassociation. And we're going to, in a moment, I'll run it with you all so you have an experience of it. Even if you haven't got any pain, just get into it with me and just use your imagination. But, you know, if you have got any pain of any kind, then use it on it and see what happens. And then I'll explain it to you afterwards. Are you all up to doing this? Are you all up for having a go at this?
Absolutely.
Yeah? Okay. Right. I'm going to use I'm going to use this technique that I use online to hypnotize people. And I'm going to use it with you. When I was working last night, I didn't have this screen where I could see everyone. I just had to hope that everyone was not going like that to me online, you know. So, and I felt like I was talking to myself, but we are going to run this. I want you to have this experience, okay? It's going to be 5 minutes, but this is what I want you to do. There are two things that I symptom scale. One is fear and one is pain. And the reason I do that is because we can remember having pain, but we can't remember what it felt like. I often say that's why women have more than one baby. If they can remember what the pain was like, they only have one. They wouldn't do that again. You know, but so we can remember having pain, but we can't remember what it felt like. It's the same with fear. I can remember being afraid, but I can't feel it now. And so two things with symptom scale. So if you have got some kind of pain, whether it's physical, emotional, whether you call that pain anxiety or stress, I want you to do this for me now. In your own mind, just scale it from 1 to 10. 10 being excruciating, 0 being no pain at all. All right? So I don't have to tell me this, but just get that number in your head, okay? So you all got a number? Okay, right. I want you to do this. So are you ready to be hypnotized? Are you ready to experience the arrow? Okay, yes. I want you to do this then. I want you to pull your hand up just so you can, about 4 inches from your face. And just let your wrist relax like that. It's not the swan, don't worry. Okay, I want you to just look at a spot on the back of your hand. Focus on it now. And as you focus on that spot on the back of your hand and you listen to my voice, you're going to experience something. And I'd like your unconscious mind, when it's ready to allow you to experience the most profound state of hypnosis, I'd like your unconscious mind to start to turn that hand towards your face. I want you to do nothing. I want your unconscious mind, when it's ready, it's right, you're going to feel it turn towards your face. In a moment, it's going to touch your face. And when it touches your face, you're going to drop into the most profound state of hypnosis. Just for a while, that's right. Eyes closing, going deeper, deeper, deeper down. That's right. As you look at the spot on the back of your hand, as you feel that hand turning now, as it moves towards your face, that's right. You can drop deeper, deeper down now. That's right. Every word I say now is going to take you deeper and deeper into the most wonderful state of hypnosis. Just for a while, nobody wants anything, no one expects anything, and there's nothing for you to do but to relax. Nothing bothers or affects you, nothing disturbs you. Just feel yourself drifting down through space and time. You all know how to do this, that wonderful place of bliss. Going deeper, deeper down. As you drift even deeper, my voice, my words are going to drift with you to become a part of your experience now. Every word I say is going to take you even deeper into that wonderful, profound state of hypnosis. And the deeper you go, the better you're going to feel. Everything I say now becomes your reality, and every suggestion I give you, you'll act upon, carry out without hesitations, now your reality. I want you for a moment just to do this and have the experience. I want you to imagine you're drifting up out of your body, just leaving your body in that chair. Just imagine you're drifting up out of your body and drifting right up into the sky. Higher and higher, like a helium balloon that some young girl has let go of in the park, and just drifting up higher and higher. Imagine you're drifting so high now that you can look down and you can see the planet Earth below you. You can see that beautiful planet. You can see the whites of the mountaintops, the greens of the forest, the blue of the ocean. You can see that wonderful planet below you. Now in your mind's eye, I want you to see a target, like an archery target. It's a massive target between you and that planet. You can see the bands, you can see the bullseye, the very center of that target. Now in the center of that target is the useless, unnecessary pain and discomfort you've been experiencing. every ounce of that useless, unnecessary pain and discomfort's in that target. Now, in a moment, I'm going to make this sound. As I make that sound, you are going to be fired, shot like an arrow, straight through that target, straight out the other side in a millisecond. But I want you to be brave about this, because as you go through that target, you will experience that pain and discomfort even more intensely for a split second. But be brave. This is the last time this is ever going to affect you. So get ready. As I make that sound, you're going to be fired, shot like an arrow, straight through that target, straight out the other side. Get ready. Now you're out the other side, drifting in a space of total bliss. Nothing bothers or affects you. Nothing disturbs you. Once again, I want you to see the faces of the people you love, people that love you. Feel that love right now. Let that remind you of just how loved you are, your real worth, your real value. And as you feel that love, as you see those faces, notice that every ounce of that useless, unnecessary pain has gone from your body, gone from your mind. Now I want you to drift across the other side of your room so you can see yourself sitting in that chair. You can see the clothes you're wearing. You can hear my voice. Notice as you watch yourself from the other side of the room that every ounce of that useless, unnecessary pain and discomfort has gone from your body, gone from your mind. You cannot feel it. You cannot experience it. And I'd like your unconscious mind to make those changes now at a molecular, cellular, neuron level that will allow you that freedom forever from every ounce of that useless, unnecessary pain. Only when the unconscious mind knows and has made those changes that will allow you that freedom forever. Only then will you drift back over to your body, drop down into your body in that chair, and go even deeper into the most profound, wonderful state of hypnosis. That's right. Deeper, deeper down. You can go over your unconscious often as you need to know that you're free. Free of every ounce of anxiety and stress, free of every ounce of useless, unnecessary pain, physical and emotional, free to be. Only when the unconscious mind knows and has made those changes at a molecular, cellular, neuron level that will allow you that freedom forever, and allows the conscious mind to accept the changes made. Because in a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 10. And every suggestion I've given you, you'll act upon and carry out without hesitation. On 8, your eyes will open. You'll feel incredible, like you've had a ton weight lifted, like you've had the blinkers removed, like you've had the shackles removed, the feeling of freedom you may have never experienced before. And on 10, that feeling of freedom is going to grow stronger day by day. Get ready. On 8, your eyes will open. You'll feel incredible. On 10, that wonderful feeling of freedom is going to grow stronger day by day. There's every ounce of useless, unnecessary pain has gone from your mind and your body. 1, feeling absolutely wonderful now. 2, to achieve the things you want to achieve and do it brilliantly. 3, a feeling of freedom from every limiting belief. 4, feel the force of that energy and freedom through every cell, every fiber of your body. 5, feeling incredibly alive now. 6, 7, 8, eyes opening, feeling absolutely incredible. 9, 10. Okay, I want you once again, try and feel that pain now and find you cannot. On a scale of 1 to 10, where's that pain gone now? Yeah. Put your hand up if that pain's gone completely or it's reduced massively. Excellent. Great. You know, all of you can do this, and you can see, I don't know how long that was, but you can look back at this bit of recording, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. You know, this is something, if you're a doctor, you can do in your surgery. It's not going to take you hours. You don't even have to use the word hypnosis. You can just say it's guided meditation. It's guided, whatever you want to call it. If hypnosis is not a word that you can use in your medical practice, then call it something else. As I said, this can be done by anyone. You know, we're hypnotists, so I'm going to hypnotize you. But in reality, I could just ask you to close your eyes, imagine drifting up out of your body. I'm sure Michael, you know, he'll share this recording. I don't know if he does or not, but you can look over it and see it. It's not difficult, you know, and I can't make it any more difficult than it is. And I don't want to make it any more difficult than it is. Yes, you can do a 1-day course with me. You know, you can tune in next week and do the course. But in reality, you've probably already got it. You know, Bob's done it, heard me do this twice now, and you know, I know you know how to do this stuff. So when I do this, the arrow, I'll normally, like I did last night, Bob, I combine it with what I call quantum healing. Again, a very simple idea and a very simple technique. And I will share it with you now. You know, I won't take you into it, but I'll explain how I believe it works. And probably if you were going to do evidence-based, they could pull this thing apart. But for my clients, they really don't care. You know, most of them don't care how it works. They just want the result. And I never say I'm a healer, because I'm not. In fact, I actually believe I don't do anything. I really don't do anything. All I know is that I act like a catalyst to help my client get in touch with their own abilities to change. That's how I see it. You know, I have an ability, a learnt ability, to help my client get out of their own way for a while, get their conscious limiting beliefs out of the way, so their unconscious mind goes, I'm here, what can I do for you? And so same with the healing. And no one comes to see me for healing, because I don't advertise healing. But a lot of the people, it's probably the same for some of you, they've been smoking for 30 years, they're ill. Very few people who smoke for 20, 30 years are perfectly well. Or they've been eating the wrong foods, or they're overweight, or they're drinking too much alcohol, whatever it is they're doing. So most of my clients, especially if they're, you know, in their 30s, 40s or 50s, they're going to have something that's been caused by the way they've been living. And if I see that, I say to them, you know, this is a thing called quantum healing. I'm going to explain what it is. I know you're not here for this, but why are you here? It's only words. It's only imagination. What have you got to lose? I haven't had anyone say, well, don't bother. No one said that to me yet. And I see it that way. You know, I say, what's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that happens is nothing. And you can be disappointed. That's the worst thing that can happen. What if? And I have had, and you will have if you do this, incredible results that go against the evidence-based medical science. Because I think we're beyond that. I think we really are. We have an ability to heal naturally. When we cut our finger, we put a bandage on it. We don't have to think that's going to heal. We just get on with our day. 2 days later, it's scarred, it's gone, it's done. We don't have to think about that healing. So we have that ability. And quantum healing, which I'm going to explain to you now, I believe taps into that natural ability. But getting back to the pain, my theory on why the arrow works, and it's only a theory, you know, it's not, there's no evidence behind this. The reason I believe it works is that we as human beings have an ability under some circumstances to completely ignore pain. If our lives are under threat, instant survival, we can ignore pain. We all know that. You know, we know it. I worked with a guy in my teens, and it's been back in the 60s. And he'd been a soldier in the Suez crisis back in the 50s. One night we were having a cup of coffee. He was telling me about his time as a soldier. And he said that one day they were out on patrol, and they came across this bit, they had to go across this bit of no man's land, his troop. And they were under fire. And he said they were running and there was bullets whizzing everywhere. And he's in open land. So there was no shelter. He said, I felt something hit my foot. He said, I imagined it was a stone, so I just kept running. He said, I dived behind a wall, sort of relative safety. So I looked down at my foot. He said, and there's a bullet hole through my laces. So I turned my foot over and it had blown the back of my heel off. But this guy had run maybe 30, 40, 50 yards with no pain, because his brain had gone, it's not a time to stop and look what's happening. You've just got to get out of this situation. And it leads me back to the Erickson thing again. As I said, the man was a genius. You know, we get them every now and again in all fields. And to me, he was the man and he was the genius. And again, he worked with it was a woman who was dying, and she was in agony. She had cancer, only maybe 3 or 4 months left to live. But she didn't want to be completely doped up on morphine. She wanted to have some interaction with her family. So she'd asked Erickson to come in. And I think she said to him, I don't know whether you can help me. And I think he said, I don't know whether I can help you either. So he just said to her, he said, look, I'm in agony. I'm in terrible pain. And he just asked her a question. He said, if a Bengal tiger burst through that door, where would your pain be? And she said, I wouldn't have any pain. In that understanding that she can ignore it under certain circumstances. And for the rest of her life, which wasn't very long if I remember rightly from the story, if anyone asked her if she was in pain, she would just say, no, I haven't got any pain. I've got a Bengal tiger under my bed. She just held on to that understanding that I can just ignore it. And I think what the arrow does, not just the arrow, but I think a lot of the things that we do, it's almost like we're giving permission to change. We're giving permission to ignore what's no longer any use for us. And I sometimes use that when I'm talking about smoking. I say, search and find something that's of vital and utmost importance to you, something that no longer suits you. And I think that's, for a lot of us, there comes that point in time when we started doing something when we were 13 or 15 or 19, and it suited us at the time to smoke or party or drink or whatever it is, that when we're 40 and 50, it's detrimental to us. And I think that just me saying that, go and find something that's of vital and utmost importance to your life, your health, your heart, your lungs, something that no longer suits you. And I think it's the same with pain. This pain was of some use at some point. It no longer suits me. It's of no consequence. It's useless, unnecessary pain. And then it's almost the client, whether they think it or not, they give themselves permission. Okay, well, I can forget about it. And I often use amnesia as part of the whole arrow technique, because generally people don't come in, I run the technique for 5 minutes and say goodbye. I teach them self-hypnosis. They pay me a reasonable amount of money, and they come in and I say, well, that's that much money. They've only been here for 3 minutes. So we try and give them something else. And one of those things as a part of it's not just to fill a gap. I believe it's of value. When they're in hypnosis and we're running the arrow, I'll just say these words. So it's easy to forget. We put our keys down sometimes, we forget where we've put them. We make a list, we forget where we've put the list. It's easy to forget. And you can forget to remember to think about that useless, unnecessary pain. And I don't know if it'll be 5 minutes from now, an hour from now, 30 years from now, when you suddenly realise you're thinking about something else entirely, and the useless, unnecessary pain disappeared right here, right now. So it's just a nice little bit of amnesia. Just forget about it. It's done. And you can use that little bit of amnesia for cigarettes. I don't know, it'll be an hour from now, a week from now, 30 years from now, when you suddenly realise you've been thinking about something else entirely, and the need for a cigarette disappeared right here, right now. I don't know, it'll be 5 minutes from now, an hour from now, 30 years from now, when you suddenly realise that anxiety disappeared right here, right now. It's just a simple a minute's worth of amnesia. And that's what I want for my clients. I want them to go out and 3 days later think, I haven't had a cigarette. What happened? I haven't felt that pain. So I use the same sort of things in so many different parts of therapy for me. If you listen to me, it's probably much the same for everyone that comes in. I do what I call parts negotiation to deal with the underlying programming, as I call it, the habitual behavior. And then I'll use a technique, maybe the arrow, maybe a bit of amnesia. But it's pretty much the same. It's a handful of tools. It's not a basket full of tools. And I've told this, I always use metaphor. And as I say, I've seen 30,000 clients and I've only ever got 5 metaphors. They've all heard them. They've all taken something else from it. People think, wow, he comes up with these great stories. Of course I do. I've said them 30,000 times. So I should know the words. So yeah, simple things. And some of them are just 2 lines one that I like for a lot of people, and you've had them, I'm sure, people who have to be perfect at everything. And if you're doing training, and if you're a trainer, you'll know that we get a lot of students that never actually get to the work. They think, I've just got to learn one more thing. I've just got to do one more thing before I start helping other people. And this, if you haven't heard it, this is a lovely little metaphor, only a few lines. And for someone who feels they have to be perfect. And it's this: you can close your eyes and experience it for yourself if you like. I'm just going to say it to you. Just close your eyes and imagine you do suffer from overthinking things or trying to be perfect. You're in hypnosis. I wonder if you know anything about the Navajo Indian. They weave these incredible rugs, these incredible, beautiful rugs. They're intricate, beautiful colors. And they weave these rugs, and they've been doing this for thousands of years. And they're the most beautiful rugs. They're world renowned for these rugs. But within every one of those rugs, there's a minute knot, an imperfection somewhere. And every rug has that knot in it. And when they're asked why they leave that knot in that rug, that imperfection, their answer is the same as it's been for 2,000 years. They leave that knot in that rug so the gods don't think they're trying to be God themselves. Then we just get on with the rest of the therapy. It's a very simple, lovely, as far as I'm concerned, metaphor. You know, that it's okay to do your best. It's okay to be okay. We don't have to be perfect at everything. So, you know, I love what we do. I love telling stories. But as I said, my work is very simple. And sometimes if I haven't got any other time, if I'm on a plane, I'm going to use the arrow in 5 minutes. Sure. And I don't feel I need to be in my therapy room. Obviously, I do this for a living. So I'm going to encourage people to come and see me and spend half an hour with me. But there are times when some of these techniques you can just use in conversation and make a difference. So that was my theory on the, as I say, on why the arrow works. I think we're just giving people permission to forget about it.
Yeah, Freddie, you're giving us so much. By the way, yeah, forget about it. This is the New Jersey hypnosis technique.
Yeah, see, the gang, forget about it.
But you're giving us such.
Especially in Chicago, you know exactly how to say it. I'm sure. Yeah, forget about it.
Such a wealth of information, and I just want to give you a little heads up. About 10 minutes before the hour, between 10 and 15 minutes before the hour, we're gonna give people a chance to open up their microphones and ask some questions.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned the Jacquin Power Lift Induction earlier.
Yeah.
And I wonder, before we get to the questions, if that's something you can share with us.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I mean, you can. In fact, you know, we're going to do this as. You have to imagine I'm there with you, which might be a pretty horrific. But we start. The reason I use the Jacquin Power Lift, and I'll explain how it developed. In fact, it's quite funny, really, because it utilizes 2 or 3 different things that you all know about: fractionation, rehearsal, and pattern interrupt. So all those 3 things are worked into this very simple induction. And I was just got into the hypnosis, and my son Anthony, who most of you've met or you know, you've read his book, he was still at college. He was in Greenwich, not Greenwich Village, but Greenwich in England, in a university there. So I went to meet him for lunch, and I said, I've just been reading about this rehearsal induction, and apparently, I said, you pick the person's hand up. I said, you put it up to here, but you know, you never reach the actual induction. So I said to him, I put it up, and then you close your eyes. I push it down. You open your eyes, and I looked across the table, and he's gone. And I was only trying to tell him what I just read. I hadn't intended to hypnotize him. So there's a rehearsal in this induction. There's fractionation, and there's a pattern interrupt. And I'll show you how to do this now. You can all do it if you like. I'll show you first, and then you can do it on yourself, okay? So I asked my client, if I'm going to touch my client, and you are going to touch your client, is it okay if I borrow that hand? Which is a strange thing to say, really, because, you know, you borrow something. I had one lady once say, providing you bring it back later. You know, it's like we're going to go off with it somewhere. So I say, can I borrow that hand? And they go, yes. So I say, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do, then I'm going to do it. In a moment, I'm going to reach over, pick that hand up. As I pull your hand up to here, I want you just to allow your eyes to close. I'll push your hand down, and you can allow your eyes to open. I'll pull your hand up, and your eyes will close. I'll push your hand down, your eyes will open. That's all I'm going to do. So I've demonstrated on myself first. Now notice there's very subtle change in the language. It starts off with permissive. I'll pull your hand up and you can allow your eyes to close. I'll push your hand down and you can allow your eyes to open. That's permissive. I'll pull your hand up and your eyes will close. All of a sudden it's authoritarian. I'll push your hand down, your eyes will open. All of a sudden it's gone from permissive to authoritarian, but so subtly you don't even notice it. So we do this. And so I want you to all do this. Just, and if you haven't done it before, use this ambiguous touch. So it's these three fingers. You put your thumb on one side, your middle finger on the other side, and this finger in the middle. So when you reach your hand at the top, you just let go of those two fingers, still with your hand on the back of the hand, okay? It gives the impression that you're still holding it, but you're not. So we say this. You can put your hands down for a moment. And so I'm going to lift your hand up, and you allow your eyes to close. I push your hand down, your eyes will open. I push your hand up, your eyes will close. I push your hand down, your eyes will open. That's all I'm going to do, all right? So I've actually lied because it's not all we're going to do. So we've done fractionation there. As we put the hand up, we ask our eyes to close, eyes open, eyes closed, relax even more each time. On the third time, you say, and as that hand lifts and your eyes close, then I change my tone of voice. Say, feel the wrist stiffening, feel the elbow joint locking, feel the forearm muscle tighten, feel the bicep tightening into your shoulder, feel the arm going completely rigid. And now they're in this position. And it leads me into a great position for getting ideomotor movement going and getting some signals. So you can all practice that. Let's practice it. And just when you, on the third time, let's do it again. I'll do it with you. I lift your hand up and you can allow your eyes to close. I push your hand down, you can allow your eyes to open and relax even more. As that hand goes up, your eyes will close. As I push your hand down, your eyes will open and relax even more. As that hand goes back up and your eyes close, feel that wrist stiffening, feel the elbow joint locking, feel the forearm muscle tightening, feel the bicep tightening into your shoulder, feel the arm going completely rigid now. Now, if I ask you to think about the person you love and imagine that arm is locked, imagine that arm's locked now. And when you realize there's nothing you can do about it, you can try and get it down, find it goes even higher now. Push as hard as you can. Feel it going even higher. That's right. You can look at that hand, watch it going up, and understand you've just done some self-hypnosis there. I'm going to click my fingers and your hand will drift down, and you'll know that you can do the Jacquin Power Lift. You know, none of this stuff's complex, but it's super powerful. So on that third time, that's where you do the pattern interrupt. You know, as human beings, we are trained very easily. I used to coach boxing, and you know, if you in the gym, when you're sparring, you know, someone throws a jab and you block. They jab and you block. They jab and you block. Now you've trained them. Okay, so when you're in the actual combat and you do that, you throw a jab, they block. You throw a jab, they block, because then you know that they've been trained to do that. But on the third time, instead of you go to throw the jab, but you just make the movement. This hand comes up and you throw a hook because you train them to do this. Got it? And it's the same in this technique. You know, the first time up, down, up, down. Now everything in their brain is going, he's going to push my hand down. And then you change your tone and you do the pattern interrupt. Feel that wrist stiffening, feel the elbow locking, feel the forearm muscle tightening, feel the bicep tightening into your shoulder. You're giving it a little poke, you're not hurting them, just making that arm go stiff. Feel that arm go completely rigid, their eyes are closed. Now even when I'm just demonstrating, you're doing it on yourself. Some of you got that feeling that all of a sudden your arm's locked. You know, I introduced a little bit of emotion, and then I suggest that's going to happen. So you can imagine what it's like when you're actually with a client and you're doing this. And again, you know, it's a strange situation to leave them in. Their eyes are closed, they're sitting there, and then you can get some ideomotor movement going. It's much easier from here than it is if their hands are on their lap. So it's a very simple technique, and I will use that in every first session. You can use it standing up, you can use it sitting down, but it's just a great technique because you know, we can all do relaxation, but then sometimes, and I'm sure some of you experience it, they go out and they get the change, but they wonder whether they've been hypnotized. You know, it felt really good, but I'm not sure I've been hypnotized. If someone's arm's stuck like this for half an hour while you're talking to them, they know that something strange has gone on in there. If you do a bit of eye-open hypnosis where they can't move, then it's very clear to them. It's a prover. You don't need any of it, but it's a prover to your client. So that's the Jacquin Power Lift. As I said, I started talking about the, you know, let me know when you want to start doing these questions. I have no idea what the time is. So
You're good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, we'll talk about quantum healing. And this, as I said, I don't say I'm a healer, and I don't believe I'm a healer, but I do believe we all have the ability ourselves to heal if we can tap into that unconscious, automatic ability to heal. So this is how this came to me. Whether this is true, whether this is myth, I don't know, but I'm going to tell you how it came to me. Because my son Anthony will say to me, you can't really use the word quantum because it has to do with physics and mathematics. But the quantum physics is to do with the universe and how the universe is formed. And everything in the universe is made of atoms. All that makes this china and makes this metal is a different communication between the atoms in that material. Our bodies are made up of 70 trillion cells, apparently. And all that makes you what you are, eye color, hair color, skin color, height, is a unique communication between those cells that makes you the unique individual that you are on this planet. Now, the idea behind quantum theory is that quantum healing is that when we get a disease, when our bodies are functioning perfectly well, those cells are communicating perfectly well. When we get a disease, whatever that might be, there's a breakdown in the communication between those cells. That's the idea. So this is how this story came to me. There was a man that was working on splitting the atom. Now, back in the 40s or whatever it was. Now, how he can split something you can't see is anyone's guess, but we know that he's done that. He was working on quantum physics, but he also had studied hypnosis, and he had an interest in the mind and how it worked. His wife at the time, now bear in mind, this might be true, it might be myth, I don't know, but it's how it came to me. His wife at the time had varicose veins, and there was a long waiting list to get these veins sorted out. So he thought, why not apply the same quantum theory as you do to the universe to his wife and her body? So the universe is made up of atoms, his wife's body is made up of cells. So he hypnotized her. He set up a communication, an ideomotor communication. He asked her unconscious mind if he could speak directly to every cell of her body. And he got a signal to say he could. He then asked those cells to reconnect the communication that will allow her body and her veins to go back to normal. Now, apparently, whether this is true, whether it's myth, I don't know. He had photographic proof that these veins went back to normal. So, as I say, I never promise anyone anything with healing because I'm not a healer. But I say, you know, what if? And I have had phenomenal results. You know, I cannot say to you, I've healed this person, I've healed that person, I haven't. And I don't do anything. But we do. If we can tap into this, set our body working properly and set that healing back in process. So I ask the cells to reconnect the communication, give me a signal when that begins. And while that's happening, I'll get on with some other work. Then I ask the unconscious mind and the immune system, the part that runs the immune system, to keep that healing going. And that's all I do. You know, as I say to my clients, what have you got to lose? It's only words. It's just your imagination. We were down in Brazil. You know, Marcella. Do you remember Marcella?
Mhm.
The very, the beautiful girl, married to, the surgeon, the bone surgeon. And when we first went down there, and Anthony they made these shirts up with Anthony's face on. So we're all asking to sign this T-shirt. And she said to me, "Will you write on my T-shirt?" And I said, "What do you want me to write on this?" She just write on there, "It's only words. It's just my imagination." And that's what she uses all the time. And she's fantastic. So, as I said, for me, what can we do? It is only words. It is only imagination. But the power of our imagination is immense. So that's quantum healing in a nutshell. It's the arrow technique. It's a Jacquin Power Lift. It's the finger lock. I don't
So much.
crammed a bit in here, but just have a go at these things, because once you do it once, if you haven't already pushed yourself to testing your work, and you do it once and you get a result, it will change the way you think about things. I'm sure most of you are using it and testing it, but if you're not already doing that, just the finger lock on someone who hasn't had that experience before is a big experience.
Lovely, Freddie. So before we do the questions and answers, I'd like to just take a minute to acknowledge that Freddie, you've been doing a bunch of stuff. I mentioned earlier your book Hypnotherapy, which is available through Amazon.com, and you have an online group going that you might want to mention, and just anything about how people can contact you or any particular.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to contact me on Facebook, it's just, you can find me on Facebook. But I've started these couple of groups, they're just really for hypnotists, and it's just a networking, really. So it's the Freddy Jacquin Hypnosis Network, and there's the Brain Expansion Group. If you find me on Facebook, you'll find those two groups. And if you weren't here when I explained it earlier, the idea behind the Brain Expansion Group is that it's come from that idea of AI, artificial intelligence, where the fear is in the world that you're going to build a computer that can upgrade itself, can reprogram itself. But my thinking was, we've got one of the best computers, if not the greatest computer, between our ears. And through self-hypnosis, we can keep upgrading ourselves and upgrading our mind. In fact, for me now, the problem is trying to restrain myself. I have so many ideas, got so many things on the go. So the idea behind that Brain Expansion Group, I suggest that a few of us get together and just hypnotize each other, just practice our online skills, and just upgrade. The first week it was about, the first month it was about creativity. See how much we can enhance our creativity. And this last month was about, I think it was about being able to learn faster. So every month we come up with another topic which we can work with each other on. So that's those three things on Facebook.
That'd be great.
They're all free to join. There's not anything in that. I've just started doing the Zoom. This is my really second time. Last night was the first time I've done a webinar. I'm doing a quit smoking thing online on Thursday. This is for people who want to quit smoking and lose weight. And on next Tuesday, I'm doing an arrow technique training online. Again, it's the first time I've done it, so just to see how it goes.
All
but
right.
my book, I've got the book out as an Audible as well. It's got my voice. I recorded it, so I'm really pleased with that.
Yeah.
So you can go to Audible, and in fact, if you get on Facebook with me, you can get a link. If you're not already on Audible, you can use the link, and then you get my book for free as your first book on Audible. Yeah. And so if you want to do that, but I have to say I'm very pleased with that, because the response to it has been really good. So.
Well, the book is wonderful, and I'm sure that the Audible is just as great, because you're such a lovely storyteller, and you have been so generous with us tonight. We really only do have 9 minutes left, and my job is to make sure that this train gets into the station on time. So forgive me for having that function.
Just quickly, I'm at Hypno Thoughts this year in August. You're probably there, are you?
Yeah.
Hypno Thoughts live in Las Vegas. I'm doing a workshop with Kelly Woods. Back in the early 2000s, I came up with a thing teaching parents how to use some of these simple tools for their kids. it's on YouTube on the BBC. Kelly saw it, asked if we could work together. So we're going to be teaching that in a 2-day workshop at Las Vegas. Keen, it's called Kids Empowered Easily and Naturally. So we're running a 2-day workshop with Kelly. I'm running a 2-day workshop with Kaz Riley on sensual intelligence. And I'm running a 1-day workshop just purely on the techniques from my book. So if you're at Hypno Thoughts, come and see me. You know, I'd love to see you in one of those workshops. That's it, really, for me.
Great. So we've got an opportunity maybe for a couple of quick questions, and I think the easiest way to manage that logistically is if you all have the chat room open. If you have a particular question for Freddy, if you could just put a question mark in the chat room so that we know that you have a question to ask, we will open up your microphone and let you do that. So in fact, I see one right now from Angela Brooks.
Quick work, Angela.
Yeah, I don't mess around, man.
Go right ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Freddie. I adore you. So my question is, when you say, okay, I have my doubts, but I can keep them to myself. You know, I have no doubt that I can keep it to myself, versus I don't know if it'll work, but let's give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, it's much the same thing. Yeah.
No,
But, you know, but it's how you approach that. You have to, and you know, when you step up to hypnotize someone, you have to act as if it's going to happen. And it's pretty much what you're saying. You know, I'm not sure it's going to work, but we'll give it a shot. But if you say that to a client, then they're already in doubt whether you're going to do it or not. You know, I just think act as if it's going to happen. You know, maybe it's the wrong thing to do, but I say to my client, when you leave it today, that fear will be gone. When you leave it today, the need for a cigarette will be gone. And I say it in the same way as I say tomorrow the sun will come up. Mm-hmm. You understand? My tone of voice is exactly like that.
But there's more to it, Freddie. There's more to it, right? Because you believe it the same way you believe the sun is coming up tomorrow.
I do, and I do believe that my client is capable of it. I do believe that. You know, so yes, I can say it like that. Is it always? Is it 100%? No. But it'll be a bigger percentage if I act as if it's going to happen. That's my belief. You know, I'm willing to take it on the chin if someone said, well, you promised me it was going to work and it didn't work. Yeah. You know, and I think if we when we work with our clients, I've had people phone me 6 months later, say, you know, Freddie, I started smoking again. They apologise to me. You know, I've taken their money and they apologise to me for starting smoking again. The only reason they could do that is because they must have known when they were with me, I wanted it to work for them. I wanted it for them. And that's the only reason I can think of. So I act as if, and as I say, that saying, it resonates with me and it resonates with my students. You will have doubts, but what you must have no doubt about is you can keep your doubts to the self.
That's right.
That's just a nice way of putting it, really.
It's lovely. So we've got one more here from Charles Buckingham. Must be one of yours, Freddie. Hello, Charles.
Sorry,
ask your question.
Oh, Charles.
Yeah. Hey, Freddie. I'm a huge fan. I went and saw you at Hypno Thoughts last year, and I do have your book. I ran the arrow technique on a woman a while back. She came in for itching, and I'd done some other techniques to help her learn to control her itching. But then I was like, hey, I've got another technique I think is going to be really helpful for you. And at the end of it, we got her probably to about like a 90 to 95% solution. She was like, I still feel it a little bit, but it's way better. Any thoughts on like what you would do to kind of get the rest of the way over that hill?
You can just suggest that, you know, I don't, like I'd say to her, you know, yes, I understand you've still got it slightly, but I don't know whether it'll be in 5 minutes from now, 10 minutes from now, when you suddenly realise you're thinking about something else entirely. I will use that line, but the thing is, Charles, that for someone who's got a really big problem and you reduce it by 90%, they're still miraculous for them. And when we're dealing with, I sometimes, even though people say this pain's no use to me, it's completely useless and it's unnecessary, I sometimes think, and maybe it's my excuse, it goes down from a 10 to a 2. There's still a bit of protection left in it. There's still a reason for them. Otherwise, they go out and just lift stuff and do stuff they shouldn't be doing. If there's just enough to keep them safe, and I'm not saying it's the case with the itching, but I would, and there's no harm in running it again on the last 2%. That's my attitude towards it. You know, just so let's run it again and put that last remnant of that itching in the target. Do it again. But for most people, she would have been chuffed, I'm sure.
Oh, she was pretty thrilled.
Yeah, yeah. And as I said, you know, we all want 100%, don't we? And we want it to be a 0 every time. I believe with pain, sometimes it's going to go to a 2. And for the person who's been in agony for years, and it goes down to something they can just cope with or live with, and they probably forget about it after that. And again, just say it. You know, just suggest in everyday conversation, I don't know, it's been a minute from now, 10 minutes from now, when you suddenly realise you're thinking about something else entirely.
Yeah.
And again, one of the great Erickson stories, a guy said, you know, I can remember everything you said. You know, I've heard everything you said, I can remember everything you said. And Erickson said, yes, in this room, you can remember everything I said. That's a great suggestion.
Yes.
The guy stepped out. What happened? Use it with the itching. Yes, in this room, you might still feel 10% of the itching in this room.
Lovely.
They go out and they forget about it. This for me, I love this stuff, you know. But, yeah, you're doing great work, Charles. You know, just keep at it.
And we love you, Freddie. This has just been absolutely fantastic. We are moments away from ending. So I need you to hang on just for a second because we're going to give you a proper send-off. And before we do, I just want to remind everybody, we have recorded this. It will be posted tomorrow on the IMDHA forum. It will also be in the virtual chapter YouTube group, and it will also be posted in the virtual chapter itself on Facebook somewhere around about noon tomorrow if I get my act together. And let's see, what else do I need to tell you? CEUs, go to IACT, go to IMDHA, claim your CEUs, get credit for this. In fact, because it was so full of information, I think you should tell them that you attended an hour and a half of the virtual chapter and you want 6 hours worth of continuing education credit for it.
There was that much information here. Yes, there was.
There was indeed. And so now, Freddie, we are going to do what we. One last thing. Who's
on deck? Who's on deck for next month?
Well, I don't know.
Just a suggestion.
I wish you hadn't asked me that question in public.
It's just a suggestion.
I thought we already had next month lined up.
But this is just a suggestion. You'll remember everything I've said, and you have the confidence to use it. It's just a suggestion. I'm just a hypnotist.
Yeah. And the presenter series begins Sunday night. Remember, as we amp up to the conference, we'll be with George Bien and Roy Hunter. That program starts the same time, same bat channel as this evening, but that will be Sunday to February 17th and every Sunday until April 7th. And we will be back with the virtual chapter on March 12th, 1 month from tonight, with a mystery guest who will enter and sign in the program.
It will be amazing, and we'll let you know ahead of time.
So with all that done, what we are going to do, Freddie, we do this every single time. We're going to do something wild, crazy, reckless. We are going to open up all of the microphones at the same time, and in a great cacophony of love and affection, we will wish you a good night as we sign off. So
thanks very much. It's been lovely to see you all. Lovely to work with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Freddie. Birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Enjoy. Go forth. Change a lot of lives.
Bye, Bab.
thanks so much, friends.
Come in.